super smart,
fearless,
no judgment,
inspiring,
energetic,
intellectually stimulating,
sophisticated,
thriving, ultra sassy. Really a community where people value me exactly for who I am.
We are all committed to changing the narrative as it relates to aging.
All right. Well, welcome to How She Revels. Today we are with Susan Lee Colby and Kathy Sjogren of Grace Creative, and also of Girls Gone 50, which is a fantastic Instagram platform, newsletter, and blog. If you're not following them yet, you should be following them. And also founders of the anthem, Age is Not Just a Number. And we'll talk more about that at the end of our conversation. But I was lucky enough to meet Susan. Gosh, we talked back in February, I think, and we had a long conversation about her beautiful gray hair that I think COVID, not long, but your gray hair now that I think you cut off during COVID. And I just, your story resonated with me so much, and just the work you're doing is so fantastic for all of us women over 50. So welcome to both of you. And welcome all to revelers and new revelers. If you don't know about Revel, we're a community for the 50 plus women to connect and learn and be inspired by other women. And many of our programs are hosted by Revel members. I'm a Revel member, but I also am the host of How She Revels. And the goal of How She Revels is to bring inspiring women that are over 50 doing inspiring things to inspire us to live and age differently. So welcome. And
thank you very much.
We both of you were in high-powered agencies. I'm going to tell Susan's story first. You were with a lot of different agencies, right? Chiat Day, RPA, Della Femina, BBDO, all big names in the ad agency world, working on brands like Honda, Apple, Pizza Hut, and Yamaha. And then after that, you launched, and I didn't know this about you, so it was fun to read this, the Crazy Cat Lady, an upscale retail pet business featured widely in newspapers, magazines, and national television. So that sounds like it definitely set you up to start your own agency, all those things in your life. You raised 2 daughters and given birth to 2 businesses. And you met Kathy along the way when you were with bigger agencies. And Kathy, you worked with large agencies also for 15 years and were creative director for Disney's consumer products and live family entertainment. You're a proven pro at bringing transformational campaigns to national and global markets. And you've raised 4 children and launched your own startup also, Poetry, producing original recordings of holiday poetry for retail sale. And you have a wide variety of work in print, television, digital marketing, branding, and design. And you're a big hiker. And when you're not inside working, you're out hiking somewhere on a mountaintop.
That's right.
So that's very brief, but I'd love to hear you fill in the blanks, both of you, and do a little deeper introduction of yourself in your past work, and then how you met, and then the pivot into what you're doing now. So Kathy, you want to go ahead and start?
Well, sure. Susan and I have been friends probably for close to 30 years.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's a good friendship.
We started in advertising at kind of the tail end of the Mad Men era. And we were one of the few women creative people in the creative departments. So it was much more of a boys club then. And so when you found somebody that you thought looked like you, you kind of stuck together. So we started our friendship bloomed and we stayed in contact. We started Della Femina together, and then I moved on in different agencies, but we still kept in touch. And I don't know if you want to talk about advertising at all, Susan, or if you just want me to kind of jump into our whole crazy concept here of why we started Grace.
Sure, go ahead.
Oh, well, I mean, again, we were at Delphimina together as youngins, and then, I went on and started freelancing at different agencies. I started having kids, and I ended up at Disney, and Susan was was at different advertising agencies too. And then one day she called me, and she was driving her daughters to school, and she said, "I have a manifesto." And I went, "What are you talking about?" "I've written a manifesto." And I'm like, "Okay, what's your manifesto?" She goes, "I just think this is a really good idea. And I think we should start our own advertising agency." And after a while, when you've been in advertising and you're working for different agencies, and as long as we had been in it, you start aging out. You get to a certain age in the business and you are considered too old. And honestly, you're not that old. You're like maybe in your late 30s, early 40s, and then you're you're considered like, washed up. And everybody, I mean, because it's a very young industry. They bring in kids who are in their early 20s, and when an early 20-year-old comes in and you're sitting there across the table trying to work with them, they look at you and they're going, they're her, you look like their mother. So you do kind of start feeling like if you don't start your own agency or go on the client side or do something different, that you're going to lose your job. You're going to be out of a job. So Susan had this idea, and I'm going to let you take it from there where your manifesto started, because it was surprising, it was crazy, but it was a good idea.
Yeah, so I mean, I think part of it too, in advertising, it's a very fast-paced industry. It's very male. So on top of age, there's sexism too. So you're kind of dealing with both things. But then there's the other part, I think, where you reach a certain age, and you read off, Stephanie, where you've been working your butt off for pizza or motorcycles.
Yeah.
And all the products that we were working on were very male oriented, where you just want to do something that you really care about a little more. And so, at that point, when Kathy and I had gotten together, we were in our 50s, and we were, it's just sort of like, let's do something that we really care about. And that really reflects the mindset of an audience that is the most, when we did the research, we are the most empowered consumers in history. Baby boomers, especially kind of the younger segment of baby boomers and the older Gen X, are super empowered right now. And there's a whole convergence of things coming together that make us so powerful, which is we've developed careers. And at this point, a lot of us are becoming empty nesters. So we have more time to pursue the things that are important to us, not just, doing everything for everybody else. And a lot of times, unfortunately, our parents are passing on, so you're inheriting, money that way. So the audience is very affluent and capable and active and healthy. And so we weren't seeing that in any of the advertising, reflected back to us. And it's almost like, it became invisible, which was crazy because, they, in some senses, in media and advertising, it's almost like you're done. But really, I think we all feel like we're just getting started at this point.
Right.
I don't know how the rest of you feel, but I mean, we definitely felt like we're just getting started. We know so much now. We're kind of at the top of our game, and you're not taking advantage of that. So these thoughts were just kind of coming into our head. It's like, well, if we're going to do all this work, let's put it towards good, and not. I mean, I don't want to say evil, but you know what. And so this manifesto just kind of started coming out that, we know of all the things we know at this point as women, that we know that life is not black and white. We've given birth to families and to businesses, and we've done all these things. So this manifesto just kind of came out, And so I called Kathy, and to her credit, she's like, okay. And, she saw the idea in it, and then we just took off from there.
Well, I love the passion behind it. And I think having a partner in crime is super helpful. But I think, putting it out into the universe, and I'm sure the reactions you got from women in the age group was very positive, because we want to be represented. We want to see authentic representation of women, not this aspirational reflection that the decision makers think we want to be 20 or 30 still. It's
Yeah.
so was it the feedback you got from your friends and family? What was the reaction?
Well, we did some early focus groups with our friends, and we kind of really dived into the mindset. And I think one of the important things there too is that it's so different, because in the past, marketers would market to our age group. It would be things like incontinence, and I don't know, it would be all kinds of health things. It's like all the things that they felt we needed because we were falling apart,
Right.
And so what we knew, and was validated by the women that we talked to, is that we're very active consumers, and we make 87% of the buying decisions for not just ourselves, but our families, our parents, and we pay for a lot of that stuff. So
Right.
why aren't you talking to us? And we buy a lot of the same stuff that millennials do. So why are you separating us from that? So that's kind of what we saw, is that we're way more tech savvy than you give us credit for. We all buy a lot of technology. We buy a lot of the same brands. I buy a lot of the same brands as my daughters, and I pay for theirs as well.
Exactly. I was just going to say, we're buying the millennials' clothes a lot of times, or products. So yeah, I believe that. And let's just talk about numbers. The number of, I think it's trillion, right?
19 trillion.
19 trillion is the combined worth of the over 50 market that's being ignored, underrepresented, undervalued. We're living longer and healthier, and we want to age even more healthy. So to be promoting those brands and those products to us, there was something recently. IKEA is doing a whole living longer at home campaign that I thought was interesting. I think we just lost Kathy.
I think I'm back. Am I back?
She's down at the.
So what you're saying too, do you feel like the older shopper is a new hot trend? Have you seen that happening, or not?
Kathy, do you want to?
Well, yeah, because I think brands are finally coming to grips with the power of this demographic, this consumer. I think, like Susan was saying, they were selling us all these things for geriatrics, and now they're realizing that somebody who's 50 years old is not a geriatric. A 50-year-old is still wanting to do a lot of things, and is physically much more active and much more fit. I don't know, it's my
Your Wi-Fi is still breaking up.
sorry.
Would you agree that the age models need to be updated? The 80 of today is not the 80 of 20 years ago, and to me it feels like the age models that are used in advertising are still based on like 1950s models.
I think it's getting better, but also what we'd like to see is where it's not like an outlier, or it'll be like a whole group and then there's a one gray-haired woman.
Right.
Just sort of like,
check the box.
Exactly.
We got the gray hair in, so we're good.
Yeah, and just have a woman over 50 just selling something normal, and not something that, you think is just for women over 50.
Right.
So,
any brands doing a good job at that right now?
I think it's getting better. Obviously, Dove kind of started that with the whole real beauty thing, but I'd like to see more in terms of older women with that. And I think, who's trying to do the best work in that is all these brands started by women over 50
Yeah.
because they get it, and I think they're the ones who are really pioneering this and supporting it. And so I think that is, super important because there's so many. I think women over 50 are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs. So I think that's going to make a huge difference in changing the narrative out there about this.
Right. And education. I mean, I think this whole concept of being heard and being seen through social media is making a difference too, because it's rewriting what younger decision makers understand aging to be.
Correct.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, Kathy, do you have your reception back? But I think
She's coming in and out.
Sorry.
We see you.
I just feel like I'm doing all the talking.
I know, I just not sure if you can hear me, so that's I just don't want to not answer the questions.
No, we heard that. So let's talk about, I know there's a campaign. You talk about some of your brands or clients that you're working with today.
Okay. Well, actually, we just worked with Genev's, which is I think it's the first telehealth company for women in menopause. And that's been a wonderful experience. And again, we did a brand anthem for them. And the purpose of that was we really wanted to just blow the stigma off of menopause and just show the world what menopause really looks like, that in the past, again, you think of some dried up old woman. It's like you're just because you can't, your childbearing years are over and you're transitioning to something else doesn't mean that you're not still a woman. So
talk about one thing you mentioned in my research was about the products that retailers or advertising doesn't want to talk about, and menopause is one of those areas.
It has been, even in, we found that, I think it's changing a little bit, but even on Facebook, that you couldn't even, as an ad, you couldn't even say menopause in an ad. Yet you can talk about, what do you call
Erectile
it?
Erectile
It's
dysfunction.
erectile dysfunction. Yeah, and menopause has been treated like a disease. It's not. It's a natural transition, and in some ways, it's really wonderful because once you get through it, there's a lot of freedom. And
Right. But do you think that's because there's a lot of men in decision-making roles?
Yes. Yes, it is. I mean, I think it's getting better because it has been such a thing that, it's like women's periods and menopause, things that are female issues that men don't feel comfortable about talking about. That's, I think, where we're behind. But because more women, I think, are speaking out and more companies are being started by women that, for menopause products or, anything that was kind of taboo for men to talk about. Now it's coming out, and it seems like it's being more acceptable to be able to speak about it.
Yeah.
Again, that's being driven by women over 50 who
Right.
are starting companies.
Well, you made me think, and Lori just commented too, on television, there are ads about erectile dysfunction, but you don't ever see any kind of advertising about menopause and menopause products.
Not yet.
Right.
I'm trying to do that, but yeah, so we were really happy to do that because we had a whole range of women. Again, it just starts off. In fact, our star who started it off was one of your models from Celebrate the Gray, Annabelle.
Annabelle, yeah.
Yeah, and she just looks straight in the camera and she puts her hands up and she goes, "I am in menopause."
Yeah, taking the shame away from it
Exactly.
is so powerful for women and for our daughters. And I know that we have intergenerational workings at Revel, and the gals that are part of the HQ team, I think, are very educated now on menopause and are looking at menopause in a more positive light and not this end of something. It's the beginning of something.
Yeah, I think there's still, though, a lot of it is, happens, a lot of the stigma still happens in the workplace where you don't feel like you can even say, that you're
From
going
having
through
a hot
menopause,
flash.
because you're supposed to be eternally youthful, first of all.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're having symptoms, you're not supported by sick days or, you know, or any kind of policies that would help support that. And I know Geneva's trying to change a lot of that as well, with just the way that employers treat menopause and have support for that, because otherwise it makes it really hard to keep going in your career too, if you have to kind of hide that, or you know, when you start sweating during a presentation, or
Yeah, it's viewed as you're incompetent or you're nervous or you're not prepared, when
yeah.
in fact,
A couple of presentations at Disney, you'd be sitting there and you'd be presenting to a room full of people, and then all of a sudden brain fog, and you're like, where was I? The whole idea has gone out of your mind, and you sit there and you're trying so hard, but it's just gone. But that's, no one would understand that because you can't even talk about it.
right? Well, thank you for doing that work. And I know Geneva is pushing through on that also. But I know the Golden Door campaign was a really fun campaign for you.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. Kathy, you want to talk about it, and I'll
Sure.
share.
Am I on? You
Yeah,
guys have?
you're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Golden Door was one of our, golden clients. We love them, and we've been working with them for quite a number of years now. But when we started working with them, it's the number one rated destination spa, and it's got a big history with Hollywood, and a lot of stars used to go there before starting movies. And Golden Door is all about transformation, and we had been doing a bunch of ads, and we were trying to come up with an idea of how to, do something different and new for them. And it was all about becoming human again. And we were working on all these concepts for the campaign, and we were pulling together scrap images of what we thought would be really interesting to show, to present the idea to the client. And all these images were really Annie Leibovitz images, because her stuff is so beautiful, and she just sees people in a certain kind of way that is just so honest and authentic. And so we were sitting in the office one day, and I just looked at Susan, I go, do you think it'd be weird if we asked Annie Leibovitz to shoot this? And Golden Door is this small, it's not a big, gigantic company. And their ad buy wasn't something that probably could support Annie, but we thought, well, heck, why not? Let's go for it. And so I think that was something that Susan and I just kind of always felt like, it's, you're not going to tell us no. We're going to try until you tell us no. And so, and I think that's one thing that we've gotten through working so long in this business. It's like, your experience just kind of tells you, look, you just got to go for it and see what happens. And so that's what we did. We reached out to Annie, and the first reaction was, yeah, they were very interested, but then they came back with this crazy amount of money fee. And we just, we presented it to the client. The client goes, we love this idea. We wish you could shoot it, but we can't do this. So then we started looking for other photographers, and we had spoken to 3 or 4 different photographers, and I was about to push the button, and we got this email from Annie's office manager, and she said, is it too late? And we're like, what? And we got kind of freaked out. It was awesome. And
your wish has come true, and it's like, oh hell, now what do we do?
Yeah. But it was an amazing experience. I mean, she brought, in speaking with her, she totally understood the authenticness of what we were looking for, and she loved the idea of just how age was kind of being represented in it. And her team literally was probably all the same age as we were, probably women in their 50s. And it was just a wonderful experience.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, Stephanie, at first it was like, oh my God, and the nervousness sets in. But it was one of the easiest, calmest, most professional shoots that we've ever been on. And shoots, as you know, can be super stressful and crazy. And I think a lot of it had to do because of who we all were. It's like you always know that, whatever comes up, you can solve it, that the worst thing is never the worst thing. We can figure this all out. And it just was really great. So I'm going to share some of the work here.
I know that whole comment about the mindset of the 50 plus woman of, you know what, we'll figure it out, it'll work out, is so powerful for others to realize. And
You have that experience, you have that know-how, and you're just gonna figure it out. It's
Yeah.
not like something you can't
and I
do.
think as women, as we age, we lose sight of all those experiences and all those skills that we have. And
Yeah.
even if you've not worked and you raised kids, that's a huge skill set that a company could really benefit from.
Yeah, and so a lot of this idea for Golden Door is, what does luxury mean to women over 50? And I think at this point, it's not about, the fanciest, trendiest, whatever setting. It's not about the bling. It's about kind of transformation and the experience. And, how does that make you feel inside? What does it make you feel inside? So this is one of the first ones, and this is a real Golden Door guest, who's a wine entrepreneur up in Napa named Pavi Lawson. She has her own wine label called Pavi. And so, this, I don't know if you can read the headline, but it says, "This place saved my life. It really taught me how to care for myself because I was taught to take care of everyone else." I'm Italian, so I learned from the masters. Here I found my inner tools that had gotten lost. And this is a lot of what, the luxury means. Is like, imagine the luxury of having a week just to yourself where you just think about yourself. That's kind of the ultimate luxury, and
Right.
thinking about what you need. So we took.
Well, I think, yeah, you're also showing someone that I could identify with, right? That most women over 50 could identify, that's me.
Right, right.
Versus this 20 or 30-year-old trying to sell us something.
Right. And so then there's a little link here, but there's a long story that goes with this. We interviewed each person about their transformation. And so when you go to the website, you can read their story and about how it really changed her life. And it really changed her life. She was going through a lot with a divorce and some other things. And she was very candid in her story. So,
And it's great too on the site. If you go to Golden Doors, they have behind scenes of actually shooting with Annie. And so there's a bunch of images and a video there. So that's kind of fun to watch too.
Yeah. So this was "Hit Safe," was the tagline on this. But what was really funny about this was we were shooting this out by the pool, and we were trying to keep it very low key on property, that Annie was there shooting, and they usually try and keep the shooting very low key so they don't disturb their guests. But Annie is so iconic looking. And so she gets up on this ladder, and suddenly, one after another of women in their robes come out, and they're like, "Oh my God, is that Annie Leibovitz?" And so suddenly the shoot, like all these women came over, and they're like, "Can I take a picture with you?" And so the shoot sort of became about her, and she was so gracious about she was so gracious. I was really impressed about just taking photos of these women. And some of them had met her before, but it kind of added to the whole thing that we were trying to do. So here's another one. This is Chaz Ebert, who is married to Roger Ebert. And so she's a regular guest, and this is with her daughter and her granddaughter. And she's very much a regular there. So hers says, "My wish for them is to step out of the rat race so they can check in on their hopes and wishes. This place brings you back to the core of yourself and connects you to everything, especially each other."
Wow.
So again,
What
we're
a
trying
beautiful
to
picture.
Yeah. And that's on their labyrinth.
And I love just the intergenerational aspect of that, the beauty of 3 generations.
Exactly. And so we're trying to define the things that are really important to us at this point in our life. And then this was a fun one. I don't know if anybody knows in LA, knows Chef Ludo Lefebvre. He's a Michelin starred chef. He's kind of famous down here. But this is him and his wife out at
The
they have
chicken
a
yard.
chicken coop at Golden Door. And he's a big fan, so it's not just for women. His says, "My wife Chrissy said, 'Ludo, you need to go here.' I thought, I'm a man. No way, no way." But it really changed me. Nothing is more precious than to be peaceful and not be spinning in your life. It's a luxury. And so we thought this was just super fun.
Well, I love that the inclusion of all ages within the campaign, because we don't want to just see pictures of older women and not part of society and ingrained within society. So for me, looking at this, I see, oh, we're as valuable as all these other people.
Right. And,
Yeah.
I think it also shows what a woman in her, his wife, I think she's maybe in her mid 40s, but
she just turned 50.
oh, she just turned 50. I mean, what does that look like, a 50-year-old to you? I mean, to me, it doesn't really. And it kind of is like it's a reminder that it's like 50 does not look what 50 looks like to
Right.
most people, and I think that's what's so great about these ads is they're showing people, the brands, that what this audience looks like, because I think they think that we look really old. There was this funny story about, we were interviewed for another for an interview for some magazine, and they were talking about, they were just asking us all the same kind of questions, and then it came out and they had this image of these two blue-haired, gray-haired ladies with canes, and as the visual for
Yeah.
Susan and I, and we're like,
Oh,
Susan's just going, oh my God, they need to change that image. I go, why are they using that image? Because I have no idea. So we like email them really quick and say, you've got to change that image. That's not who we are. But I think when younger people, when they're sometimes doing advertising about people who are 50, they think that's what we look like. And the fact of the matter is we don't. When we're very active and we don't look like that. So they did change it, and that was great. But I mean, it was just so surprising to kind of think that people see you like you see yourself, but they don't.
right.
If unless you are, part of the age group. I mean, I'm sure how we see ourselves is different than other people see us, but I don't know if that's even relevant, because I want to see myself the way I see myself, not the way somebody else sees me as, an 80-year-old, because it just seems like this 50 plus thing is another thing to talk about, because it's like there's a big difference between 50 and 80. So why are we lumping this all together?
Right. That's true. That's a really good point. But I think that the visuals, this updating visuals and narratives is so important for women. The phrase, you can't be what you don't see. So if you don't see other representations of 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, then you can't even imagine that's what it is. So you settle into the limitations of what we're sold on advertising, of what you can do at certain ages. So the work you're doing is just changing that narrative and visual. Talking about ageism and being in rooms with male decision makers. I mean, I'm sure you've been on many pitches where you have to educate them on, I'm not to say things about men in a negative way, but talk about the ageism, racism, genderism that you faced in some of these pitch meetings you've been in.
Well, I think they still, I just think I mean, if you don't let them make you feel that way, then you're not going to be, they're not going to treat you that way. But a lot of times you walk in and literally you are the only woman, two women, or one woman in a pitch. So you really have to come in very confident, and you have to feel like you're in control. But there is always this like little pat on the head, like, okay, thanks very much kind of attitude. It's changing because a lot more women are now are running advertising agencies. And so they're getting involved, and 3% of the women in advertising are creative directors or executive creative directors. So it's still really tiny. But I mean, also in regards to like stock photography too, it's just like, we have people calling us saying, where do you guys get your stock photography? Because we can't find stock photography of this age of person. And if there's any photographers listening, if you want to make any money, go start shooting women who are 50 plus, doing active things, not walking on the beach into the sunset, but looking like a normal person, because there is a tremendous need. And there's a huge market out there. People are really looking for that kind of photography.
Yeah. And we haven't found it yet.
So that's why we have to shoot
do
a
a
lot.
lot of our, well, that's why, I mean, we would probably do a lot of our own anyway, but even more so, I would love to do that.
Yeah, I've heard that for the last 5
Good
years
opportunity.
and trying to figure out a way to make that happen. And photographers just haven't jumped on board with it, even though ladies that are over 50 that are photographers say the money they can make is not great enough on stock photography. But I think if they're the only game in town, it might be a different thing.
Right.
So we try to always do some shots when we have photo shoots with Celebrate the Gray. We always try to gather up some generic kind of shots exactly like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
just
great
to have.
idea. Yeah.
So what, let's talk about going gray during COVID.
Okay.
As many of the women,
Yeah, how many people have gone gray during COVID?
anybody else on the call decided to take the plunge? Because Susan was one of them.
Okay, there's another Susan who's got a thumbs up there. Oh, there's Heather.
Oh, Heather, yeah.
Anybody else? Page 2.
Well, tell us your story, Susan, because I love it.
Okay. Well, I've been thinking about it for a while, and every time I tell Kathy, I go, I think I'm going to do it. And she'd be like, really? and, and then I, like most people, I was really scared to do it. I didn't know what it would look like. So I asked Kathy to Photoshop some pictures of me with gray hair so I could see. And even on our blog, we did a little poll. Should Susan go gray?
It's still actually one of the biggest things that we get comments on. It's like a survey, should Susan go gray? And it's crazy because a lot of people say yes, and then a lot of people say no. But it's still very active.
Said yes, didn't they?
Yes. Most of them said yes.
Yeah, and it was kind of a funky photo because it was photoshopped. But anyway, so obviously COVID was a perfect opportunity to try that since we were all in our house and nobody was seeing me. But I'm a very impatient person, and so I was like, I don't want to wait for it all to grow out. And my hair was longer at the time. So I was like, I don't want the half. I don't want to wait for this. I'm just going to engineer this and do this myself. So this actually happened right before COVID. I went to my hairdresser and said, I want to dye my hair gray so that it's all one color gray. And so he goes, okay, well, you have really dark hair, so this is going to be a multi-step process. Are you prepared? And I'm so, okay, yes, I am. So he does the first step, and then it looks kind of good. I mean, it's like a little bit light brown, streaks in it. That was the first step because you can't just go straight to gray. And so it looked good, but then my roots started growing in, so there was some white and some dark and some light brown. I looked kind of calico-ish. So then as that started coming in, they shut down the salons.
Oh, so you're just
So I'm stuck with this thing and it's growing out. So I'm pulling it back and, trying to do all these things. And then at like 3 months in, it opened up. So I was like, please, 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 can I come in? And so I went in. I was the only one there. We did the next process and it was lighter. But the thing that I learned is when you have dark hair like mine, and you've been dyeing it, it's not that easy. It goes really brassy and warm. So then my hair started turning orange.
Oh no.
Yeah, that was not a good look. That was not a good look.
So then he did that, and then again the salon shut down again. So then I was stuck with the orange. It was just crazy. Anyway, finally my hair looked like a broom. I mean, it just really looked horrible. So when the salons finally opened the third time, I just went in and said, just cut it all off. This was crazy of me to even try it. Oh, actually, I did finally get it to where I wanted it, but then that didn't last because it grew in. So I was kind of dealing with the same whole dying, tug of war that I had before. So I finally cut it all off, and then it made it a lot easier to grow in. And so now this is natural.
Well, it looks, as people are commenting, it looks adorable and it looks fantastic on you. I think it looks very modern and chic. And I think that's the power of showing women with going gray hair, cut in a modern cut, in my modern styling clothes. You're updating that visual for other women to say, oh, that's what gray hair can look like. I thought it was always associated, it's always equal to old, gray equals old, but and feeble or, you know, elderly. So thank you for doing that for all of us.
Thank you for the support. But I think that, you know, I was thinking about it yesterday, actually. I think I do feel more confident now in some weird ways. Just because I think I do feel a little more authentic, like, you know, and especially when you have dark hair, those of you who have dark hair know it's like in a week, you know, the gray roots are right there. So you kind of feel like you're always trying to cover something. And so
Yeah.
I think there's a little bit of power in feeling like you're not covering anything, whether you like the look better or not. I don't know. There's something a little bit empowering about it.
Well, this kind of leads into empowering. How did Girls Gone 50 come to be, and the empowerment you're giving and allowing other women to give? Tell us about starting that.
Go ahead,
Okay,
Pat.
well, I think Girls Gone 50 was kind of, it grew out of our advertising agency for Grace Creative. And, you know, when we first started Grace, you know, and it's a niche, you know, we're trying to market to brands that want to reach women 50 plus. And so we realized that that's a very, you know, it's really not a small thing, but in advertising thought, it's a niche market. And so,
Tiny budgets
Yeah.
yes.
don't allow much money for it.
Right. And so we thought we needed to become experts in this field and show that we knew what we were talking about. So we thought, okay, we need to have this. We started this blog and we started getting contributors and having things that really kind of put a spotlight on women and what they're doing and the things that are going on in their lives in a really positive light, and not just kind of making us look old, making us, you know, see all these really wonderful things that we've got going on in our lives. And so it has helped in a lot of ways to show that we are, you know, we know what we're talking about. You know, we started the blog, and that's helped us find who we, you know, what grace is, define what grace is also. But then we've also, before COVID, we started doing these salons that we would have, you know, probably like 75 to 80 women would come, and we would have guest speakers, and we would, you know, be able to have different products come. And those were taking off too. So it was kind of all these things that kind of helped. We were trying to create, to kind of push our agency further, in that it wasn't just a crazy idea to start a marketing agency to market to women 50 plus, that there's a lot of reasons why behind it that have made sense. So the problem with our salons was COVID hit, and so unfortunately we kind of had to stop doing the salons, but the blog is still going on. We're always looking for contributors. So if anybody has great ideas and wants to contribute, you just go to Girls Gone 50, and there's, in the little hamburger at the right, you can look up under contributors and see what we're looking for. Always email us, and we'd love to take a look at what you have to say.
Yeah, and read Stephanie's article.
Yeah, Stephanie.
Yes, thank you. I got to be a contributor. That was so exciting. It's fun to tell your journey. I talk about my agency, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, we got
Inclusion.
a response on that, because, you know, it's just such a wonderful thing when you say that you have an agency for models over 50 in
A
high.
lot, yeah. It had a great response. People are going, how do I sign up? You know,
I've gotten quite a few signups.
yeah. Oh, good.
So I appreciate that. So how did Age Is Not Just a Number, the anthem, how did that all start?
Well, that kind of was COVID related as well. Actually, COVID did a lot for us. Because, you know, all our projects just got put on hold. I mean, as you know, I mean, everything came to a stop.
Right.
And we couldn't film anything. And so it was kind of like, let's take this time to work on ourselves and our mission and what we're trying to do. And really, our larger mission, again, is just to just to kind of mobilize this force that we all are, and say to advertisers, we truly are a force, and you need to see why we're a force. And I think the idea of age not being a number came out of we were reacting to always hearing, oh, age is just a number. And I know I don't really have an argument with that. I do believe that, but I think what was happening with it is it was just kind of becoming a way of saying, oh, I'm not old. You know what I mean? Instead
Yeah.
of owning your age and what age actually means. It means you've done all these things, you've accomplished all these things, you've gone on this journey, so why not own it? So that's how we came up with the hashtag that age is not just a number. It
Yeah,
means
it's all your experiences, all your knowledge that you have gotten throughout your whole life. That was kind of the main thing behind it.
Well, I want to show a little video so people get a sense of the work and what the project we're talking about. And then we're going to share something that Revel's going to do. Oh, where is it gone? No, this is not. Oh, here we go. Sorry.
This is also on the Grace Creative website. So if, depending on how this Zoom plays, if you want to see it clearly, you could go to gracecreativela.com and it's there on their website.
But for sure, because where's my everything gone? Sorry. I was all queued up and now beauty. Oh, here we go. Okay.
I'm 54.
I'm 48.
57.
59.
61. 62.
I've been a world traveler,
A doctor nominated for an Emmy.
FedEx driver.
a black belt,
I've lived through IRA bombings,
Single motherhood.
Layoffs.
guerrilla warfare.
Heart and a kidney transplant.
And now a pandemic.
I've raised 4 children. My expectations. Twins, big sister, big dog. I've lost 3 tenses, my gallbladder.
My parents,
My husband.
My fear of failure.
I have gained courage.
20 pounds, 6th graders.
A sex life.
Age is not just a number.
Age is not just a number.
Age is
Age is
not
not
just
just a number. It's what makes me who I am.
Smartest person in the room.
Phenomenal, confident,
Sexy, soulful,
Unapologetic.
a force,
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 force.
I love that. I love the power of the words and realizing we can use those words to still describe ourselves.
Yeah, and what was really cool about this was this, like Susan was saying, this was all done during COVID, and all of these women were, part of our, group of Girls Gone 50 friends, or people that have contributed to the blogs, and we had them all film themselves at home with their iPhones, and they were all like really into doing it. None of them said, "Oh my God, I look terrible," or anything like that. So it kind of is shot very.
Got something to say or sell?
Oh, sorry.
Constant contact.
Sorry.
Online marketing.
Sorry. I think too, the questions that there's a prompt, and we're going to go to the next, what we're going to talk about, because Revel wants to see 3 of our Revel members, and Kathy and Susan are going to help us produce 3 members that submit. Shops. I got to go back to it. So we want to talk about that a little bit. And the questions that you ask, I am having real trouble with this, so sorry, are, so let's go here. So we want you to be ready to share your story. We want to encourage 3 members to, or more than 3, anybody that's interested in submitting their application. And let's go to this page. If you want to be considered, and to do a little short video. And some of the questions are, I've been blank, I'm blank years old, I've been a blank, I've lived through blank, I've raised blank, I've lost blank, I've gained blank, I've started blank. Just to start thinking about the power of your life experiences and how much power you have in those was really a good exercise for me to go through when I did this. So we want to encourage Revel members to participate in this and tell us who you are and what makes you powerful. So this is, you can, if you want to be considered, you can send a little 2 to 3 sentences about yourself and explain why you would be excited to participate. And then the HQ staff is going to pick 3 members to be part of it. And Susan and Kathy are going to help us talk about how to film it, how to put it together, and then they'll put it together and it will be part of this hashtag age is not just a number.
It'll be part of the movement, and we will share it on all our channels and everywhere else. And I put a link to the video on YouTube in the chat, so that
Oh, perfect.
so
And
that
we
you
also,
can see it, because there was a lot of lag, unfortunately, because that's how it is on Zoom. But you can see it uninterrupted.
oh, perfect. Thank you so much for doing that. And you can also find it on Grace Creative. And to encourage people, if you want to talk more about today's conversation or learn more about being part of Age is Not Just a Number, we're having a follow-up event next week on Tuesday, the 25th at 2 p.m., which we're trying to take the information that we learn on How She Revels from our guests and put it into practice. So we will be having these follow-up conversations, and I'll be hosting that. So anyone that's interested, it's up on Revel now, and you can join that conversation, or you can go and just submit your application directly to support@hellorevel.com. If anybody should Revel could send an email, and we will, thank you, Marcia, we'll be sending a follow-up email to everyone that attended and everyone that registered with the recording from today and information about being part of that campaign. So I hope that answers. Anybody else has questions, feel free to throw it in the chat. We only have about 5-7 more minutes. One other thing I really wanted to bring up that I love that your agency is doing is that you're multi-generation, and educating people and bringing people together at different ages is fantastic. And tell us more about that.
Well, we have a team of, 50-plusters, and then we also have, a social team of much like, 35ers, and then we have, other helpers that are in their 20s, and we have an editor that we're working on this menopause video with Genev, and he's in his 20s, early mid-20s, and he's like we're telling him about menopause, and he's looking at us, and he's like he goes, I was talking to my mom about menopause after I was working on your video. So I mean, I think what's so wonderful about it is it's like something that we should all be able to talk about, and feel comfortable talking about. And I think that's what makes a multi-generational workforce the best, because you can understand what the other person is going through, or a lot of times younger people don't even know. So our editor learned a lot, he said, and really enjoyed working on the project.
Good for you guys.
When we were editing, you always have to cut stuff out because it was too long, and we'd say something like, well, maybe take out the part about brain fog, and you go, oh no, I love the part about brain fog.
But I mean, then he has such better understanding for
Yes.
his mother or his aunt or
his
partner someday. That is the power that we can give other people, is talking about what we're going through. Any big clients? What's your dream? Who are your dream clients that you feel like, oh my God, they need to be doing a more authentic job in their outreach to?
I don't think we have that much time, but but the areas I think that we would like to work more in and like to see is areas that are not necessarily, again, targeted at women over 50, because we also buy other things. We don't just buy things because we're women over 50, but things that are not typically thought of as women products, like finance, automotive, categories like that which actually, we all drive cars, why aren't you talking to us more?
Right.
And So those sort of categories we'd like to do more work in. And of course, we always love travel, and luxury travel's even better.
And beauty, I think beauty,
Oh,
the whole beauty industry could do such a better job in advertising to us. I think it's always anti-aging, and it's not, no, it's pro-aging. It's like we need to change that whole conversation in the beauty marketing.
Right. I always say Kris Jenner is like the ideal person to come up with a makeup line for the older woman, because she's got this Kardashian. I don't care for the Kardashians, but I think if she embraced her age and actually came out with a makeup line for older women and used older women in their advertising, she could be super successful with it. So
Well,
there's somebody. And then what advice, we have many of the people on our call today are entrepreneurs or thinking about being an entrepreneur, and what advice would you give women?
I would say be gentle on yourself. It's a lot of work, and it's going to take time. Don't be impatient, and just keep working hard, because it is an upward battle. But if you're passionate about it, and you just keep working at it, it's going to happen. And just and know that it can happen. And it's a lot of women are starting businesses at this age. It's pretty spectacular. I don't actually have the figure. I don't know. Susan, do you have one?
I don't. I know that it is like women over 55 are the largest growing group of entrepreneurs. That I know. But I would also say that, just know that you have everything you need to make this, to pursue whatever it is you want to pursue. I mean, our whole lives have been leading up to this. And whether or not you've been doing that specifically, we've all been problem solving, we've all been multitasking, we've all failed at something and come back. We're super resilient. So I think all of those qualities and skills that we've gained over the years are, all CEO skills. Basically, we've been CEOs of our families and our lives, for a long time now.
I think also asking, don't be afraid to ask for something. The Annie Leibovitz is super powerful story, and to admit that you might not know how to do something and ask for help and seek somebody out. I have found that it's the most collaborative group, women over 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. When I've asked for help or support, it's been incredible.
And asking for help is not something you should feel embarrassed about. It's like, there's a lot of things in social media that the younger kids can do like in 5 seconds. And Susan and I are just like, what? But, getting that help and knowing that they're much faster and they can do it is part of the, the unlocking it for you, knowing that you don't have to know everything is the best thing too.
Yeah.
Two together too, because I think especially our experience with our social team is that they bring that element, but they also appreciate the layer that we bring to it in terms of, what are we actually trying to say when we're posting, or what are we actually, what kind of, consistent communication are we trying to get out there, and just sharing our experiences. So I really appreciate our social team and how we work together.
Well, you're doing fantastic work, and I'm so thrilled to have had you here today for this conversation. Just again, if we can put into the chat, Grace Creative, Girls Gone 50 on Instagram, also Facebook. Are you both on Facebook and Instagram?
Yeah.
Yes.
Are great places to get inspiration in midlife and beyond. And also, please, if you're interested in being part of Age Is Not Just a Number, send us a little application on support@hellorevel.com. And you can also come to the follow-up talk on Tuesday, the 25th. Let me just get that in front of me. Yes, at 2 p.m. on Revel. But it's been so nice chatting with you both today. And we look forward to seeing you change the world for all of us. All of us together.
With all of you. We're excited. We're really excited about getting your videos too.
Well, thank you for being with us today, and thank you for everybody being on the call today. There is in the chat I'm going to leave this open for a minute or two so you can grab off the chat some of the links. But we really appreciate you being here today. And it's someone saying the follow-up is at capacity. We'll raise the capacity on that. So have a great day, ladies. It's been so great to see you.
Thank you
And
so
Kathy,
much
to
for
meet
having
you.
us. Very nice to meet you, and
Thank
thank you
you.
for having us.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
it really easy for our members to know what's going on Vibe now, to then help suggest events that they should